Hello.
Hey Kim, how are you doing?
Fingers crossed. Net is up to par. I'm doing good. I'm plugged in and I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed.
Okay,
I
well,
tell you what.
you're a little blurry, but you're not breaking up, so maybe it'll be okay.
Oh,
You
I
probably
hope
need to
so.
run speed test and see if you're getting what you paid for. Speedtest.com. But anywho,
It-
we'll start all over again. Eric, hello, I love you.
He says, let's start all over again. Hello, Mom. I love you back.
I know.
He says, remember that part about loud and proud? He says, I'm still loud and proud.
Yep, you said you were loud and proud, and I'm glad. Hey, we're going to talk about the Zika virus because a lot of people are up in arms about that. You think that it will spread?
He says, let's take him on, Mom. Let's take it on. He says it will spread. He shows it spreading, like we were talking about a few minutes ago. He shows it spreading, starting in like the southern part of the U.S. and then it's spreading north. Um, and then he's trying to make this. I don't know if this is like an issue right now, but he's trying to make this differentiation between we're able to track it, but we're not able to prevent it, like stop it or confine it. Um, this is due to, he makes me feel like scientists or researchers, whatever, biologists aren't able to formulate like a vaccination against it that's going to be able to keep up with it because I feel like the virus itself, just from what Erik is showing me, seems to be able to continue to grow.
And mutate?
It's really gross what he's showing me, actually. He's showing me
Ah,
like it looks like this like worm, but then I see like these just like lines coming out, and of course it's all energy, but then I see like these lines coming out from it, so that represents like new areas of growth.
mm-hmm.
So it seems like, and I don't even know if that would make sense, but he's showing me like based on how a person's body responds to it, that's what fosters its mutation or growth. It's
Oh
really
boy.
gross.
Oh. Will it do anything more than what it's causing now? Microcephaly in children and other symptoms in adults? I mean, as it mutates?
He went right to, he did this. Um, he's so sweet and like so boyish with his little hand gestures. He said, yeah. And he's like, he went here just like in a real sloppy manner, tapping on the lungs, like pointing to the chest. So I think it might cause like, oh, he actually said if you have asthma, be mindful, like breathing issues,
Okay.
and it may even like worsen those who are already compromised with breathing issues, emphysema, that sort of thing.
Anything else?
Fluid retention, like he's showing like this fluid retention just in like weird parts of the body,
Will it
just
cause,
all over spread.
is that from like kidney disease or heart failure?
He said it would be more related to kidneys.
So it would cause a kidney problem that would cause retention of fluid, or is that some separate issue?
No, yeah, it's the same. It's the kidney issue, but it's just I'm like so grossed out by what he's showing me and like making me feel.
Ugh.
It's just it's whatever, it's interesting because what he's saying is whoever becomes infected with this virus, it must be very obvious because it's like it seems very rapid and it seems very just very obvious that something's really wrong.
Yeah.
So he's encouraging people if you start to feel really wrong, like not like yourself, you should listen to that, people.
Hey, I got to tell you
I
guys
don't
that
know.
it seems like a lot of times when we have sessions or the radio show, Eric makes this little timer go on, and it's inside my drawer where nobody's touching it, but it drives me nuts. Eric, is that you doing that, or do I need to blame somebody
Oh,
else?
he's funny. He's mocking you when you said inside the drawer where nobody's touching it. He went like this. Nobody's touching it.
Except
He's
for
like,
you,
yeah,
huh?
I am.
Okay. Knock it off, buddy. During the radio show, I had to like throw it, hoping the batteries would would come out, but they didn't. So,
I had to do that with my phone a couple weeks ago. I just
Uh-oh.
literally launched my phone across the room. But
Oh my God.
hey,
So,
whatever it takes.
yeah, whatever it takes, man. So, so what are there any other things that the Zika virus could cause?
He's showing he's talking about like early onset symptoms to be really aware of,
Oh
because
yeah.
I don't know if this is true or not, but he makes me feel like the more responsive you are to these new symptoms, the better chances um, of like beating it, fighting it, or surviving it.
How?
You
If you
guys know
catch it
I'm
early, what do
extreme.
we do? What? Just because we catch it early, I mean, does that mean we can do something like or take antivirals or is it just supportive care? What are you asking
Um,
people to do?
it's more reactive supportive care. Like what he's showing is faintness, dizziness, like almost feeling confused or disoriented. There's a lot of head energy that feels confused and disoriented. So if you begin to feel that way, and then also breathing too,
I always feel
like
that
pay
way.
attention.
Maybe I've had Zika for the last 60 years. I don't know.
Me, me too. Most people will be like, Kim, come back to me, come on.
Uh-huh.
but but he says to really be responsive. He says, you people know your bodies better than anybody else. So if you're feeling unlike yourself and it seems like a rapid onset, be just as quick to respond and help yourself in any way you can. Because then he's showing like anti-inflammatories like being pumped into the system and all these things to support or be reactive to what's happening, so that
Okay.
further damage isn't caused by like inflammation and stuff internally. This virus must be, you guys know I'm really illiterate to the news, but it must be very rampant. Like it just seems like it spreads like wildfire in the body, in the system, and I just see everything like exploding, like inflammation, just
Well, I mean,
horrible destruction.
will any antivirals work like the ones we use for the flu or the herpes virus? Will it help?
The one, when you said the herpes virus, that resonated with him a little bit stronger than the flu. Um, the flu one didn't resonate with him a whole lot. The herpes one
Okay.
did. So
Like Zovirax or Famvir or something like that, then, right?
he says yes, and he went like this, like with his hands, and that means all of them. Like
Mm.
I kind of feel bad for, obviously have compassion for those that go through this, because he makes me feel like the medications just flood into the system to see how they're going to respond,
Yeah.
to see what they respond to or what the virus responds to. So, but in that flooding the system with all those medications, of course, they have side effects too. So,
Yeah.
it seems like either way, it's going to be really difficult for the physical body to go through.
Oh, I know. Do you think that's anything we can learn? Is there a spiritual reason for this virus?
I love his mannerisms and his character. Sometimes the information is a little blunt, but when you said anything to learn, he went like this: ego, just like that.
Really?
He said. Now, what he's talking about is um, collectively how we seek control, mankind. That's like the essence of where we're going with this. He says, collectively, we have control, we need control, we want. When we don't have, we're forced to think outside the box or
Yeah.
to be creative in our nature. Let's say if you're a doctor or a researcher, trying to find um, medicines or cures for this, whatever. Um, the inability to control it is what he says is what motivates creative thinking. So, is it just you, Lisa? Are you hearing that feedback, or is it just on my end?
It's fine. It's fine. It's not bad.
Okay. Okay. Um, but what he's saying is it motivates more creative thinking instead of like the redundant running through the same rituals. There is a purpose behind it, Mom, just like everything else that seems negative.
Hmm.
Um, It's more about letting go of control and stepping into a field of creativity.
But it also must be for parents that have these very deformed children with microcephaly, with tiny heads, and other birth defects. That must be something that they have to deal with as far as we can't even control the outcome of a pregnancy, and here now we have to raise a child that's going to have health issues all its life.
He says, that's right, Mom. Again, that all falls under the umbrella of surrendering the ego. Because believe it or not, people, he says, even associating, your children with, look at my beautiful child, this is my perfect, beautiful child with 10 fingers and 10 toes. Mm. Sometimes we even have to surrender control over that.
Yeah.
Or understand.
Sad.
Accept, he says, you have to accept, and this is a learning process in that acceptance. And again, the Zika virus, he says, is just an avenue for that to take place. It could have been any other avenue too. He says, just like Down syndrome or whatever other things that cause noticeable differences, where people have to accept that and step aside from the ego. And so this is just another avenue, Mom, for that experience to manifest.
Are we ever going to eradicate it?
This is how he answers it. I don't know if we're going to be, if man is going to be in control of eradicating it. What Erik shows me is like it dying out. Like the virus itself dying out, or the carriers, dying out. That's what he says.
Do you mean the mosquitoes becoming extinct, that particular type of mosquito?
He's like slowly shaking his head, yes.
Okay.
And then he says the strain, like the strain.
The strain of mosquito?
I think he's talking about the strain of virus.
Oh, okay. The strain of virus will die out. Okay. Yeah. But that won't have anything to do with what we do. Or
not a lot.
Okay.
He says.
When do you see the eradication of the Zika virus? How many years from now? Or decades?
He's holding up 4 fingers. So I'm going to assume he's referencing 4 years.
Well, what is it, Erik? 4 years or 4 decades?
I think he says you're going to see an improvement in 4 years. You're going to see an improvement. Okay. You'll still see cases of it, but I think the frequency is really going to thin out, he says.
Okay. When will it be completely eradicated?
He started laughing, and he said, well, then you could go to 40 years. But I even think it's going to be before then.
Okay.
Inside of between 20 and 30 years.
Okay. Now, some people, this is a question from a blog member, some people fear that pharmaceutical companies or governments and vaccines have caused Zika. Is that true? I don't know how that would happen.
It's funny, his reaction to this question. No, I do not think it's coming, based on his reaction, what he's telling me, I don't think it's coming from our pharmaceuticals and that sort of thing. His response is more like, how does that thought process even occur?
I don't know. Well, where's it come from? How did it originate? Just spontaneously?
Yeah, he's just showing like literally like spontaneous mutation. That's the verbiage that he uses. He says spontaneous mutation, but then yeah, this is interesting. He makes me feel like it's been around for a while before it started affecting us.
Oh, okay. Maybe it just adjusted to a new host, us.
Yeah, that we're just it's the virus itself has been around longer than now its ability. It's okay. Bear with me because he's using these few words. he says, like, now it's on steroids in a way that makes it capable to penetrate and affect the human. So I feel like it's been around for a while. It just didn't affect us
Okay.
in a way that it does now. Um, but just as easily as it can mutate and grow, it can also like fizzle out and die off, he shows. And I think
Okay.
that's going to be within 20 years.
Well, that's good. I was reading a lot about gene editing. They're using, I think, bacteria DNA and it has little gene editing parts to it, and can go in and edit the gene, the DNA of the virus to totally disable it. And they're coming up with promising gene editing therapies for like herpes virus and I can't remember what else, but several types of viruses. Is that something that could be an option? Gene therapy.
He says yes. He shows like whatever this gene therapy is, this is what he shows. Okay, so here's this line, and let's say this line represents neutral. Positive effects, negative effects, the frequency goes up or goes down. This gene editing thing seems to neutralize the effect of these, mutations or these viruses. It seems to just like brings it back to the neutral zone, he says. He's funny. He's just all pictures.
Now, what do you mean, neutralize it? It's going to take out a certain part of the DNA, the part of the DNA that inflicts harm? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Like it neutralizes it so that it doesn't like manifest as like negative symptoms, negative impacted symptoms. So it neutralizes the gene editing sort of. Again, he's showing like, so for example, he's using numbers, he's being just very literal. Let's say, for example, someone, has a virus and then now they're going to try to, or even like a disease, and they're going to try to enforce this gene editing. Let's say that their blood says positive 4, and that means that they've tested positive for Zika.
Okay.
And then they, let's say throw in this gene editing, it brings them back to 0.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's just showing like it having a neutralizing effect. Oh, he says, but you have to, okay. He says you have to incorporate the opposite. So if it's a +4, it has to bring -4, has to bring you below the line to create neutral.
Okay.
I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking
I don't know what
about?
you're talking.
It's okay. I kind of get it.
This is like stuff from like physics when I was in college. Like this stuff just goes.
I know, really.
But
so, how far will it spread? How far will it spread? That's kind of my last question.
Are you talking about like on the map?
Yes.
How far?
Will it come to all 50 states, pretty much?
When he looks out west and he shows me like the map out west, I think it's going to be much thinner out there. So I don't think it's going to go to all 50. I can't give a complete yes on that. But he does show it going almost like as far as Canada. He shows it going very far, reaching up north pretty high.
And throughout South America? Or any other continents?
When you said South America, that resonated really strong with him. So I think we're going to see it there too, already.
I think that's where it originated. So, all right, Erik. Well, thank you. Anything else you want to add?
He's just like drumming with his fingers. He's like, I'm still loud and proud.
Oh, I know. You always used to like to drum with your fingers. All right.
He's just blowing kisses.
Oh, I love you. Thanks, Kim.
Pass him on. You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.